Good evening. Today we're celebrating the third Sunday of Lent. In many countries, this Sunday is called the Samaritan Sunday. Why? Because it's pretty obvious that we heard the story of a Samaritan woman meeting or encountering Jesus at the well. I made some research about this feast, and I found out in Oaxaca, Mexico, they celebrate this Sunday by dressing up their traditional dresses, the woman, and giving out agua, or water. And if you can afford it, you can serve horchata. I think it's a rice milk. And I shared this early morning for Mass at the 6:30 and the 9:30, and I said, Osaka. And one parishioner said from Mexico said, Father, Osaka is in Japan. Oaxaca is in Mexico, I think that we're talking about. So I got it right, I think, tonight. So let me know if I do it well. But Oaxaca, you have to breathe out. I love it, and it's a culture, but yet we understand what they're talking about. This particular gospel it's rich. There's so many layers that we can talk about. If we talk about the Waka culture, today they're giving out water. It means hospitality. And the encounter between Jesus and the Samaritan woman, it's an encounter of being hospitable. But the problem is, in the biblical times, a pious Jew, if they travel from Judea to Galilee, they have to avoid Samaria, which is in the middle, because they don't want to pass through the place that they call it the outcast, the half-breed. So they go around. But yet, in the story that we heard tonight, Jesus passed through Samaria for one reason, or many reasons. He wants to meet people that are half-breed and also to have a conversation with them. And finally, he met this woman, a Samaritan woman, which also problematic during the time. Jesus, which is a rabbi, you're not supposed to talk to a Samaritan woman. Number two, if you are a married woman, you're not supposed to talk to another man without your husband. So that's another problem. Thirdly, have you noticed in the story, it says the woman was fetching water in the middle of the day. The sun is scorching heat. But most of the time, women or anybody who fetch water, they usually do it early in the morning and early evening. Can you guess why is it in the middle of the day? Why is it 12 noon? If you guess it right, I'm going to give you horchata. Next week. Not tonight, but next week. Can you guess? Yes, sir. Thank you. If you did not hear what he said, no one wants to see her for one reason. Because this Samaritan woman is a sinner. Jesus said, you don't have a husband, you have 5 husbands. The problem is, the tension might not with Jesus, but with this woman. And the answer of the woman was, how this man, a rabbi, can ask water. And then also, the woman said, the well is so deep and you don't have any bucket. So the woman was going through the rules or the law that I'm not supposed to do this. But yet, if you're on Jesus' side, Jesus is about grace. Law versus grace. It's a tension. Most of the time we focus on the law or the rules of the church. But are we focusing on the grace? And this is the gift of Lent. Lent is about being hospitable, not just with other people, but to ourselves. I'm going to give you more. This encounter between Jesus and the Samaritan woman is about intimacy. St. Augustine described this gospel as Jesus as the groom, and then the Samaritan woman is the church. The marriage of Jesus and the church, which all of us are members of the church. More so, if God or Jesus is about grace, and this gospel pictures that God or Jesus is full of mercy. Pope Francis wrote a book. The name of God is mercy. So, what does it mean for us? God is pursuing us. Mercy is after us. Robert Barron, Auxiliary Bishop of Los Angeles, said, "Mercy is relentless. God will pursue us no matter what. Whatever we do in life, whatever sin we commit, there's no judgment." And you see this in the story of the Samaritan woman and Jesus. And I tell you this, the conversation between Jesus and the Samaritan woman led to conversion. For all of us, if you hear God's voice talking to you, your life changed. If you hear God's voice talking to you and asking you to do something, from conversation to conversion, we're in trouble because your life is changed. But yet, the promise is God is merciful. God will lead you to the mercy of God. And the last point I want to talk about is this. And I read a book, I'm reading a book, Bishop Barron's, and he said, "No one experienced God without being sent." I will repeat that. No one experienced God without being sent. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the disciples, Mary Magdalene, and even Mary and Joseph, their conversation of God led to conversion, and also they were being sent to do something good. I'm going to ask you one thing. Do you believe that you are good people? Do you believe that you are a good person? I always ask this, especially with the young people, after confession. Because I told them, if you believe that you are a good person, we do good things. Today we celebrate this week your goodness. We believe that we are good people. And celebrate that. Maybe you can have some horchata later. Celebrate your goodness. And lastly, which is very moving for me, is this Samaritan woman put the jar down. What does it mean? Her routine was challenged by Jesus. Jesus, in his mind, is asking her, why do you keep coming back to the well? You're sinning, there's shortcoming, you're seeing your husbands, you're seeing all this sin. I think the idea is putting down the jar, it's breaking the routine of sin. We have all routines, bad routines, you and I. Maybe today or this week, you can take another route and find a new way, a better way, because the mercy of God is there. Now, what I can offer to you tonight or maybe this week, not to look at our sins, not to beat yourself up, but to recognize and reflect that grace of God is at our hand. It's in our jar. It's in our well. But at the same time, to look at it in a positive way, that I will be a better person. Because that's our goal. That is our goal. Now, whatever you need in life, whoever you are carrying through in life, you're worried about, what sins you committed a long time ago that needs to be forgiven, offer them to God, especially this Lent. Lent, it's a moment of grace that gives us a living water. It's always alive. Can you find it? Can you look for it? If not, look for it now, because God will give you the strength to do it. God will give you the energy to find it. And you can find it around you, and to support one another in love, mercy, and compassion. Have a wonderful week, and God bless us all.